Okay, so today for the reading, when we're doing the cover to cover Parinama method, we are in the Longform journal prompts, page 283. And today we are going to talk about power in the third hub. Okay, the first long form journal prompt was about finding a safe place in your physicality. Now, another point I want to make on this, because I'm going to talk through like the importance of finding like a sense and the feeling of safety within your body that is not dependent on external factors. I'm also going to talk about the importance of building out emotional capacity, which comes from yesterday's or at least the last reading, yesterday's and the last reading. And then today we're going to talk about power. And then after this, and this will be for the next reading, is the third hub long form journal prompt about identity. So, all right. And I'm like a little short of breath. I'm noticing that right now. Okay. All right. So first of all, I'm going to revisit the first hub, safe place, and the importance of that particular exploration, which is that being able to find within yourself calm and safety is, like the meaning, like that's meaningful, because the external world is never going to be able to provide like absolute safety. So part of the conscious reclamation and the reparation of that aspect of ourselves has to do with claiming it and being able to find it within ourselves. Second hub is the feelings and emotions, and finding where feelings of safety, joy, power, of feeling loved, of giving love, of being understood, where those happen for us and where we recognize them and what those feelings are like, and amplifying those feelings and being drawn more towards them. One of the things in the second hub, not necessarily included in that prompt, is the expansion of our capacity to stay with negative emotions without being absorbed by them. And this becomes incredibly important as we explore the sequential hubs, and things are revealed to us that are difficult to see, to know, to feel, to whatever, to express, whatever. The capacity to not be overwhelmed. And one of the things I see very commonly in people is they're like, I can't do any more of this because it's too much, right? And the second hub is where we develop the capacity to be able to hold more charge, to be able to be in the presence of more charge without it being absorbed into our boundary, and to be able to feel in a way that is not absorptive. It's like feeling from our own self. And that may not make sense, but that's fine. So in this hub, in the third hub, it's about power and individuality. And and the thing about power, as has been discussed earlier in the book, is that power, when it is dissociated or dislocated, is relative, and it requires external validation. So in the adapted form, power is always coming from whether we have power over other people, or whether powerful people validate us. But what we're doing in a parinama practice is finding that our power actually emanates from within us. I mean, the model is kind of, when you think about it, it's like, well, where does the power come from? If it's like I need to be validated by somebody else's power or having power over other people's power, it's like there's like a really important blind spot, which is like your own power, like how that plays in the ecosystem with other people's externalizations, that your power winds up being part of their validation. So this is about drawing this inward to experience directly your own feeling of power so that the validation of other people approving is minimized to almost eliminated, and the need to have power over other people. So a good example of this, I was just thinking about this right before I logged on, is the idea of that success is whether it's, it like success really containing this notion of like fame, and fame just being like a hyper validation. So fame being that having this combination of power over other people and also being validated by them as being above them. Um, there's a very big illusion of safety in this version of power that is not true, that you'll be protected in this validation, but it's conditional. Because when it's power trading, when it's transactional, it really is about what you can do for each other. And at the end of the day, when your sense of autonomy, individuality, dignity is tied in these transactional systems, they're always at risk. And there's always this sense of like a low-lying anxiety about the rug getting pulled out or losing your leverage. So power, the adaptation of power, once again, the third hub is the kind of template of it is formed before episodic memory. This is like the toddler years where our individuality, our forthrightness, our power, our assertion, our directiveness is shaped and socialized. And as a result, our nervous system is tuned into what is safe to express. And we adapt to the environment that we came up in with how we express our power. So in this long journal prompt, this long journal, was it long form journal prompt, we explore the genesis of power within ourselves. And this is something I used to do in the Parinama in-person classes with the journal and combined with somatic exercises. But for the purpose of today, we're just reading from the book and we'll do it together. We'll do this together. So in the reading here, top of 283, the following is an exploration by Anodea Judith, the author of Eastern Body, Western Mind. I don't know if it's in that book. I don't know where that's from. I don't know if it was from like an actually working with her. I feel like this is something that I've had her do in a workshop setting. But anyway, about how we learned about power. So it looks at the family dynamics of how we were introduced to power so that we can examine our beliefs and consciously reclaim how we choose to demonstrate power in our lives. Like, so one of the things about these episodic memory, like the shaping of us, of our nervous system, and the socialization, the reflex patterning that's shaped in us, before we can remember it being shaped is kind of similar to the sort of fish in water thing, where it's like the fish is like water doesn't even exist to them, Same as like we'd have to be told like what air is, that it isn't just space that we occupy. It isn't just ether. It's like air. There's an actual, like, we are in just as much of a optimized external, there's a word for it. Whatever, there's a word for it. I'm just not coming up with it. Similar to water, weave air. So power is very similar. And so the exploration of it is to take the time and find a place where you can really withdraw your senses from the external world around you and bring it in. Hopefully you have a journal or just something to write with. And these are really similar to yesterday's exercise. These are really the investment in these exercises and what you take from them is really an excavation, and it's pulling forward some really important realizations. So let's do this together. So let's start just taking a couple of breaths. So just a big inhale in through the nose and exhale just out through the mouth. Let's do a sniff the flower. Inhale and blow out the candle. Exhale. And the first prompt is, who holds or held the most power in your family? Is or was it your father, your mother, a sibling, or a grandparent? Whose approval is or was the most elusive? Just take a moment. And even notice the exploration of how powerful a person becomes when we need them and we can't feel fully secure in their approval. Or with a sibling or someone else who lives in our house growing up. This could be, a step parent, step sibling. Not that there's much of a difference between that and a sibling, but just someone else in the house, maybe somebody who held a lot of emotional power over a parent. Maybe somebody paid all the bills and held that. Somebody your parents were afraid of or deferred to. Whose approval is or was the most elusive? Just take a moment to think about that. And maybe even if to take it a little bit further is to think of like, what what parts of yourself did you heighten or diminish in order to become to in attempts to win that approval? And maybe what interests did you take on? What sides did you take? What beliefs were you more willing to adopt to in a in an attempt to synchronize with this person? So take a moment for that. If you want to spend some more time, press pause and either think or write on it. So the next prompt is, how does or did that the person hold that power? So does or did the person use violence or threats, emotional manipulation, withdrawal, intense discipline? Or was the person articulate, firm, and compassionate? How does or did the person hold that power? Did they use logic, withdrawal, emotional manipulation, threats, even violence, or threats of violence? So just take a moment for that. Like, what does it mean to be powerful? And how to exert that? So the next prompt, how do or did you react? How do or did you react? So do or did you fight back and rebel? So at this point, we're probably thinking about a person. We're thinking about how they exerted their power over us and the home, possibly even community. And how did you react to that? So did you or do you fight back and rebel? So that's a relationship with power. Did you reject it? Did you emotionally withdraw and hide? Or did you agree and comply? So for folks who had articulate, firm, and compassionate parents, all these same things can happen. I actually won't go further into that. You can still fight that. You can still withdraw. You can still agree. You can still comply. So, what was the strategy to adopt oneself into the power structure of the home? Was it to develop allegiance and even to think about your relationship with a person in power relative to others? Were you a black sheep? Were you a favorite? And what did that mean for your relationships with other people? Anything that's evocative here about the reaction, the strategy that was necessary, no judgment. Now, the next prompt is, given the dynamics, what do you do now? So, given these dynamics, what do you do now as an adult? How do you react to power? Do you rebel, withdraw, comply? Are you still in the patterns of your family, or have the patterns changed? There's the very common outwardly compliant, inwardly defiant. So complying, but inwardly rebelling, which creates a really complicated dynamic as it relates to power, especially when it comes to expressing our own. What do we do now? Are we afraid of harming people with power? Are we afraid of people who have power? And the last prompt here is, do you feel that your right to act has been compromised? So would you like to change how you respond to power and authority? If so, how? Is there a leader whose style you admire? What are the qualities you wish to adopt as your own? So do you feel that your right to act has been compromised? Did you learn early on that standing up was dangerous, futile, got you in trouble, wasn't worth it? Many people do. And that winds up not being so much of an issue until it's an issue. Feeling safe enough to speak up for yourself, feeling safe enough to ask for what you want, knowing what you want. So one strategy is to suppress our own needs to curry favor with people who are powerful, to really shift our sensibilities so that we even may come to believe that we want things that are in alignment with the notion of power. And I'd add into this isn't in the reading, but in the knowing, so come to so now imagine coming to a place of knowing that your power comes from inside of you and that you are powerful. And that power doesn't mean that you dominate other people or that you benefit from being in the good favor of those who are dominant. You are powerful. What does it look like to be powerful in a way that is authentic, has integrity, is integral? Does it mean taking responsibility? Does it mean managing the fear of other people, protecting people? Does it mean being comfortable being unsafe at times in the interest of what is right? Does it mean being willing to be unliked when you know that what you're doing is in the best interest of the larger whole. That if at the time it doesn't seem that way, but it's unpopular, the willingness to be unpopular. To not be self-conscious, not be thinking about what other people think of you, in the sense of imagining them judging. Really thinking about what the embodiment of your power looks like in terms of how it's expressed in the world. So it's not just what we don't like about power, about how it's misused. It's like, what does power look like when it's in integrity? Does it involve empowering others to feel their own power? Reshifting that so the power isn't really about, everyone is like, suitable for leading other people, because that obviously is like a pyramid scheme. It's like to lead yourself, to be in integrity, to empower people for that. All right, so that is it for today. Yeah. So just take some time with that. And if you can, just take a little moment to be still. Try not to, if difficult feelings surfaced, which they can in a highly charged subject matter like this. If you're remembering things, this is why it's good to have the safe place that we can embody. Come back to those comforts, that space inside of yourself that you are safe right now. The placement of your body, the temperature, food, hydration, activity, what you're looking at, what you're hearing, your connections with people, animals, nature. And then also going back to the second hub, which is feelings. So from that safe place is to have any feelings that are arising and be able to just observe them without becoming absorbed. You're not there anymore. The environment that, if there's difficult rememberings, you're not there anymore. You're here. You're right here. You're here at the place of choosing. Of emotional autonomy, where that's possible. And a place of choosing how we express our power and having the choice instead of the kind of factory installed programming to reevaluate how we treat people that we have power over, what that looks like. Because even if you're at work, you don't have people who work for you. People do serve us, if you take a bus, go to the grocery store, people around us who are working to serve us. Are they invisible to us? Do we see them? And thinking about power in a new dynamic, that having power in those situations isn't an over or under, it's a with. It's the naturally emanated, like, democratic power. Yeah. So, all right. That's it for today. I'll see you next time when we do identity, and be ready. This one is a banger. It's a good one. Bring a piece of paper. All right. See you then.